multiple eyes.
Good afternoon, New York Comic Con. Hey!
That's right. Hey. Sold out crowd.
We had a feeling you guys would fill this room, so good job. My name is David Lisa. I'm the Associate Director of the Camden County, New Jersey Library System, and it's my pleasure on behalf of the American Library Association to welcome you to the Women in Comics panel. We've been planning this one all year long. We have a couple of surprises for you. And I would like to introduce my colleague behind me, Megan Kosialek, from your library affiliation, Nutley Public Library. She's a children's services librarian there. And Megan will introduce the panel. Enjoy.
Hi everybody, I hope everybody's psyched about New York Comic Con. I definitely am. Can you hear me better now? Sorry. So this is Women in Comics. My name's Megan, as Dave introduced me. And we're going to be talking about women in comics. Whoa. Alright, so I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. Becky Clunan is running a little late, but she should be here soon. And I'm going to ask the first question. What is everyone currently reading comic-wise on the panel? I'm reading All New X-Men. Erica, you want to go?
I'm Erica Schultz. I'm reading all the back titles from the New 52. I'm reading X-Men, All New X-Men, and all the Infinity stuff.
Well, I am Amy Chu, and I'm reading, well, let me think. I'm reading a lot of stuff lately. I've been pretty faithful to Batgirl, Batman, Saga, Hawkeye, Rachel Rising, and wow, just a lot of writers.
I'm Emily Weisenstein. I'm from the Madison Public Library. Right now I'm reading kind of an older series, Transmetropolitan, and I'm trying to catch up on the new Hawkeye.
I'm Claudia McGivney. I'm an assistant professor and reference librarian at Dowling College, and I bounce between manga and comics. So right now I'm doing Bleach and Moribito, and rereading one of the Gamut's solo titles, and Red Sun.
Okay. I'm Laura Pope Robbins. Oh, what's better? Okay. Laura Pope Robbins from Dowling College as well. Currently, I'm reading Buffy, which I love, and, as well as Astro Boy, and I just finished reading Science of Anime, actually. Excellent book.
All right, thank you, everybody. Okay, our next question is, who has had or had the most impact, in your opinion, on women in the comic universe?
Who's had the most impact, and just personally, or I say Gail Simone, because the whole women in refrigerators thing, that she brought a lot of stuff to the forefront. So.
I sort of thought about this. Are you talking about like the representation of women in comics, or?
I think either, honestly. Okay. What you think?
I did think about this a little bit, and I give Gail Simone a lot of credit contemporarily, but I would say Larry Hama had a significant impact in terms of representation of women in mainstream comics. If you look at his comics in the 80s with G.I. Joe and the way he rendered women and built women characters, they were real characters. They weren't just sort of, pin-ups or anything. Yeah, so to me that made a huge difference in terms of historically, I guess.
I'm kind of approaching this from the standpoint of being a children's librarian and working primarily with young girls who are reading comics, and I would have to say that there's a lot of resistance to girls reading comics, much less so now than there was. And part of that is that we have artists like, authors like Jennifer Holm, who are doing the series Baby Mouse, that are getting a lot of the kids to read, or a lot of girls to read, and also boys to go out and pick up a book with a pink cover with hearts on it, which is really awesome.
I'm always kind of approaching it from what I can encourage college students to justify in their papers, so they can actually draw comics and anime into their essays and their projects. So for me, it's actually more classical, with Chris Claremont taking Jean Grey from Little Girl into Phoenix and sort of making her going from the weakest X-Man to one of the strongest. And Actually, I even knew myself to Wonder Woman's creator kind of forcing the issue of you don't want just a pretty girl, you want a girl with the strength of Superman and also the elegance and the sort of beauty and power of a woman.
If I could get you to speak louder into the microphone, only because there are people standing outside who wanted to be in here and would love to be able to hear you too.
Awesome. What was the question? No, I've lost myself.
Well, Becky just walked in. So. Hi, Becky.
It's just far away. I got my
It's
badge
okay.
and then I come back over here and I was like, oh, there's a lot of people here. Awesome.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, we'll skip to another question. This one's for the creators on our panel. Can you give us a short personal account of being a woman in the comic universe?
Me? Yeah. Ooh, rock this one.
I think it's kind of unfair. Becky should go through.
I missed the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was
You've
thinking
been
about how
longer
that.
than you've been working longer than all of us, right? In this field?
My first book was published in like 2001 or 2002. So,
Yeah, so you should.
but what was the question?
What is it like being a female in the comic book universe?
Oh geez. Well, this is a weird question because my frame of reference is purely just from what I've experienced as a woman, so I don't really have anything to relate it to as far as being like a man in comics. But I've never felt any kind of exclusion or favoritism, and I think it's one of those things where when you're a girl and you're hanging out with your guy friends, because I like comics and video games, so I just have ended up having a lot of male acquaintances. I think, I don't know this, but I think they're on their best behavior when they hang out with me, or on better behavior maybe than they would be, because the shit that I talk about with my girlfriends when there are no guys around, it's probably a lot different than when there are guys around. So obviously there's like, it's like, there's that, right? But I've never felt like there's been anything, really, I don't know, what do I say?
No, that's good. Does anybody else have anything?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm relatively new in the comic space. I got into it, and that's another question, but I mean, I got into it fairly recently and by accident, and I have worked in fairly male-dominated fields before, so it's not like a big deal to be in comics for me as a woman. But I do see, like I sort of pedaling back 2 years ago when I first started, I started taking writing, and of course I was the only woman in the class. And again, it's not a big deal, but you notice these things. And I think that maybe other women would think twice about it. But, I just went ahead and did it anyway. I grew up with brothers. I'm just like, whatever, I play video games and like comics too. But I do think that is a little bit tricky for, you need to have more visibility for women, and I think I don't want to ramble on, but that there is a difference between indie comics and mainstream comics, and you're going to see a lot more women in indie comics. It's almost 50-50 as far as I can tell. But if you sort of delve into mainstream comics, and especially a certain genre of mainstream comics, it's like, whoa, there's not a lot of women there. So I think you just kind of got to get comfortable. I mean, it's like, for me, it's almost like an anthropology thing. I mean, I kind of like check things out, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay, maybe I won't go into that area there. But it's definitely not like I don't know. I'm not always. I'm pretty comfortable around, and I can't say the guys are always on their best behavior, really.
Okay, I should say better behavior than me. I don't know. I can only speak for myself.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure I answered that question very well. What is it like to be a woman in comics? It's very adventurous. You got to have, I'm trying to think of a polite way to say this. Yeah, you got to have balls, It's like you got to just do it.
I wanted just to jump in there. You say something really interesting that I always think, when people say mainstream comics, they always talk about, you're talking about the direct market, and you're talking about specifically Marvel and DC. We talk about, okay, maybe there's not as many female creators there than what we see like reflected in young adult comic publishing, in manga, Asian countries, and even maybe like, oh, I don't even know anything about the European market now that I think about it. Like, what's the statistics there? Who knows? But you know, there's webcomics, you know, and we have this like the comic industry is this like multifaceted diamond with so many different sides, and a lot of times people who are, you know, you spend so much time doing what you do in your world that you kind of forget to look outside of that. And we have, you know, the comics that are making the New York Times bestsellers list aren't necessarily all in the big two. There's a lot, and people forget that, you know, okay, there might not be women in mainstream comics, but what is mainstream comics?
Yeah.
Like, the numbers that some of these webcomics pull in on like a daily and weekly basis are like phenomenal. They're like mind-blowing, you know, and like this isn't mainstream comics. And then, you know, manga, like look at all the you know, girls reading like Naruto and One Piece and stuff, and it's like, okay, well is that mainstream? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we're talking superhero when it comes
Yeah,
down
but
to
it's
it,
a
right?
weird word that we talk about it as this is mainstream comics, and if you're not into this, if you're reading books from Scholastic, if you're reading Amulet by Kazuo Kibuishi, that's not mainstream, but that book is like, it's selling, it's like millions of sales, you know?
Like, does mainstream equal one particular publisher, or is mainstream like you sell a bajillion books, so you're mainstream, like, you know?
It's
that's
just,
the whole thing.
I was just thinking it's the way we use the word.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's
been
ingrained in
co-opted.
it's been ingrained in our consciousness as a comic book industry to use the word mainstream to represent Marvel and DC, when really that's just one part of, you know, to really think about the industry as a whole. It's just...
Yeah, I actually did some statistics because I'm kind of crazy that way, and I think I did a count of female versus male creators, and I won't even name, you already know, the different publishers, and it's like, wow, Wall Street does a better job, okay?
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I was reading the DC Women Kicking Ass blog, which I love. Just have a shout out there. They posted some interesting statistics about New York Comic Con in general, and I think they said it was like 40% of attendees are women, but only 6% of the special guests this year are women. And this is, I mean, but that's not to belittle any guests that, you know, they have, because they're all powerhouses. But at the same time, it's just something that it's like, we have to work on this, you know. And it's, you know, I'm here and I'm gonna have a great time, and this is a great show, and I love New York City, but it's like, this is something that we will change.
Okay, so I mean, going back to the question, what is it like to be a woman in comics? We did a panel in Baltimore Comic Con where I did a self-publishing panel, and I made sure that I had half of the panelists women, which apparently is highly unusual. You know, when it's not women in comics, specifically women in comics, you know, having 3 women up on stage was like, wow, that kind of actually stood out, and I think that says something.
There's that many women, you can stick them on stage.
So hopefully that's changing. I mean, this is not to like just go, you know, bitch and moan about it, but it's definitely changing. But it's interesting to watch what's going on, and you know, just to be aware.
I feel like that since I got into comics. Actually, it's been like, you know, 2000. Well, I was growing up reading comics in the mid-90s, and since I got published, and it's been like skyrocketing. Like the industry's changed so much since then. So I'm excited to see where it's going to go soon. Actually, this is another thing too. We're talking about being a woman in comics, and this is something that I was in Dublin last week, and I was on a diversity in comics panel, and Jordi Belair was on it, and she made a great point, which is something that resonated with me, is that, you know, when I started reading comics, I've always been kind of a tomboy. You know, when I was 20 years old, I shaved my head, I had a mohawk, and I was very much like, you know, I got that like, oh, you gay? And I was like, what is that? What is it? What are you talking about? Like, what does it matter? Just because I had no hair. And it was weird. It's because I definitely felt like I didn't relate with being a woman at the time. And I think that's just my hobbies and my friends, and, you know, just going to a lot of punk shows, and I was just like, you know, just wore horrible clothes and made some bad fashion choices, you know. But it was like, it definitely was something where it was, I remember the first time that I was like, oh, eyeliner, what's this? And then I was like, my life has changed forever. I love it. And there was definitely like this progression of like, for a while I didn't feel like comfortable, you know, with even being on a women in comics panel, because I didn't feel like I could relate with it in a way. Like I was trying to distance myself from it. But it's like, no, I love women. And being a woman is awesome, and to come to that, and it's great because at first it was, you know, in the late 90s, going to a comic convention, there wasn't that many women at all. And now it's like, every show I go to, there's like, oh my God, it's, you know, I look forward to being able to have like brunch with a bunch of my girlfriends, and it's great. It's amazing. And to be able to finally kind of be comfortable with my gender in a weird way, you know, to come around with it and not have to be like, oh, it comes second. No, being a woman for me comes first, and that's who I am. So it was a weird kind of slow process for me to just come out of my shell. I was a late bloomer, you guys. Sorry.
Sort of
But
thought
that's
about
what it's
this
like
too.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice, you know, like if there was like Futurama when you have like the brains in the jars, and that's how we're sort of viewed, not about how we're men and women, but just like as, you know, creators, and we're just floating around in these jars, and this is, you know, like Nixon, or I don't know.
I would love it if it got to the point, I'm sorry, I don't want to cough on you.
No, I have cough drops if you need them. My voice is horrible.
The two of us, we're like doing this. I would love it if it would get to the point where, I mean, and we talked about this when we were in Toronto, if you didn't have to have a Women in Comics panel, just like if it was just, hey, here are these great creators. And that would be great, but unfortunately we're at a point where it's like some people look at women in comics as like a novelty, which kind of pisses me off, because it's just like, no, you're not a novelty. If you're a good writer or a good artist, you're a good creator, what does it matter?
Or bad, you can be bad.
Or
It's
you
just
could be
bad.
bad, exactly. You can be bad. But I mean, I think if you have the talent, your gender or your orientation, whatever, none of that should come in. It should be, you have the talent, you should be recognized for that, you should be getting the work, you should be putting the work out there. You had mentioned, you know, you have to have balls to be a woman in comics, and that's true. One thing that I've worked for stuff for Marvel and DC, but always in like the background stuff, you know, like, you know, fighting to get that one, you know, 2-point credit kind of thing. But this idea of, you know, having to push yourself, I do feel that to a certain extent you do have to push yourself further, and you do have to promote yourself more. And they always say, you know, if you're not the one out there, you know, talking up your stuff and saying how great your stuff is, nobody else is going to do it, and that's the honest to God truth. So if you are reticent about doing comics, whether you're male, female, whoever, if you're reticent about doing it, get comfortable with yourself, get comfortable with what you're doing, and then be willing to go out there. Because if you're standing behind your table and somebody comes by, oh, tell me what this is about, oh, well, it kind of sucks. You know,
That's across the board, though.
that's for, you know, no, like I was saying, like if you want to do your comic, and you know, no matter what, I mean, that's something you have to be comfortable with. You have to be comfortable with what you're putting out there. You have to be comfortable with being in a fishbowl, because Comic-Cons, you're like a greeter at Walmart. Hi, how are you? How can I help you? You know, kind of thing. And you have to be comfortable with that. And if you can't get comfortable with that, then do webcomics, because, you know, you can just sit behind your computer and do fabulous things, and people will tell you how wonderful you are and not have to worry about, like, pushing it out.
But you still have to type it. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, you still have to type hi, how are you? Exactly.
Well, and I guess, like, as a librarian perspective, you know, I'm about 30. Well, I am 30. And from the other perspective, I was hid that I was geek till I got to college, because when I was growing up, it wasn't cool to be a geek. And then
Now
there's,
you're awesome.
well, yes, thank you. And now there's a new generation coming in the library, the teenagers. And there's girls who are reading the comics. And it's nice to be able to hand them different things, like the gateway drug to this wonderful world. And, you know, and from, if any of the librarians have any things they want to mention, go guys.
That's what I love about manga, is that female writers seem more equal to male writers when it comes to manga, and they've had a long tradition.
I think that's culturally, though.
No.
That is part of the culture, yeah. But, you know, you've got a writer like Rumiko Takahashi who started writing for young men, and she drew girls in to read Ranma 1/2 and Misani Kuru and these classics, and it just grew from there. And I think it's easier depending on the culture.
Yeah.
And I think the nice thing is we are breaking the, you know, normal comic world. Amy Chu, you did Kickstarter, and you succeeded, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, you
I'll
did
do
a
another
great
one,
job.
actually.
I mean, that's the nice thing, is there's these new avenues. We have technology is definitely changing the world. You can spread things digitally and, you know, things like that. So.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think that maybe, I mean, this is just a total theory, that there might be more women, or young women, getting into things because the playing field might be more equal with technology. You can do anything you want at this point. Self-publish,
Self-publishing is way more
webcomic.
viable than it ever
Oh,
was.
yeah. You know, so if you want to go read whatever you want to read, you can. I mean, it's just all out there for you. So I think, in fact, one of the earlier panels with Comixology that they were releasing some of the digital statistics, which shows something like increase from 5 to 20% female readership in digital comics, which is astounding. I mean, you know, it's a lot of the new growth appears to be coming from young women, like younger, like than 20.
No, I was going to say like 16 to 18.
Yeah, something like that. Some like 17-year-olds are picking up comics for the first time digitally. So that's huge, and that's something people should pay attention to. It's not the sort of, you know older sort of, you know, I don't know. It's just
Seeing your grandma's comics.
I feel like with comics, there's definitely like, you have to be able to read, what do you call that? Being comics literate, I guess. And it's something that, you know, my mother doesn't have it. So when I give her a book, I'm like, hey, check out my new book. And she's like, oh, I'm so proud of you. Can you read it to me? And it's like, I don't mind. No, I'm not a reader, so. But, yeah, no, go ahead.
The panel that I was on this morning we talked about linking graphic novels to the new Common Core state standards. And we talked about, you know, how if we can include these in the curriculum, you know, you can they help learning and comprehension so much.
Yep.
The visuals aid overall, you know, understanding. And there's so many nonfiction titles now, so that's a great way to expand the readership if we can, you know, and expose our students to this.
Yeah, and it helps because it's like, if that's why I love the manga boom that happened in like the early 2000s. You know, as bad as Tokyo Pop was, they like paved the way into the bookstores, and that was amazing because now you have these kids who have, you know, accessibility to comics that they might not have had before, because not every parent is going to take their kid to a local comic store, or not every town has a comic store even. But by doing that, you're enabling a group of, a young generation, the ability to read comics and think like, this is okay. Like, we need less of an attitude of like collectability and, you know, speculation, and more an attitude of casual readers, where it's okay to read a comic and it's okay to like Shakespeare. You can do both, you know. It's not like,
It's not mutually.
Casual
Yeah.
reading leads to more.
that's exactly what it is,
You
and it's.
teach them to love it and don't read everything.
Yeah, I actually had a problem a little while ago. A few years ago, I wrote a story with a few of my girlfriends, and it's very much a comic aimed at mature women, like I guess college age and maybe high school, but older than that. And I had a really hard time bringing it to editors because there's the idea that we don't know how to sell it. You know, across the board, most of the book publishers are concentrating on young adult, because they can market to that and they can bring it to schools and get it into libraries. But to sell to women who are in college and older, it's like it's this gray area, and no one really knows what to do. And until these kids who are, you know, growing up reading comics right now, the hope is in a few years, when I finally get to draw this comic, which will happen one day. It's like, you know, comics is so, time moves so slow in the world of comics. But that's what it is. It's like, I'm hoping that these kids growing up reading comics will, you know, read my book in a few years and be old enough and mature enough to, you know, understand the subject matter and read a comic and be able to be marketed to. And that's what we want as women. We want to be marketed to, we want to be catered towards, and we want stories written for us. And not to say that we can't enjoy, you know, Batman, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know what am I talking about?
No, to that point though, no, this is about marketing, and the reason, I mean, I actually got into it on the business side because we thought that we saw a distinct lack of marketing towards young women for comics. It's all been, especially with the acquisition of Warner Brothers and Disney of DC and Marvel, that the focus is really, let's move comics more to guys, unfortunately. And so we thought, my business partner and I, we're both women, and we're like, you know, screw that. You know, women needs to, you know, there's a niche here, there's an opportunity here for comics. So we set up the imprint, Alpha Girl Comics, with the idea that not to be excluding men, but that this would be an opportunity for anybody, especially women and young women, to be able to pick it up. But what we found was distribution is all out of whack. It's really hard to reach, you know, I mean, the comic book stores do not gear towards women. You know, some of them do a very good job, actually. There's a few that do great ladies' nights and things like that, but that's not their sole focus. So it does kind of raise some questions about, we need to do more out-of-the-box thinking and how we reach young readers of all genders and all races and all cultures. I mean, just everything. It's you know, it's a new ballgame, I think.
And that's really important right now because you know your target audience and you know who's going to be reading this comic, and now we have the ability, I guess, through social media and there's so many different ways of marketing. And as a self-publisher, it's become like a lot more on my mind. Like, how do I reach who is my intended audience and how do I reach them? So it's just one of those learning things, I guess. If nothing else to add.
But it also changes.
It changes all the time.
Yeah, you think I guess what the demographic is like, what, 18 to 35 is like the key target demographic you want to get in that. And that's great. And you might have something that's great for 18 to 35 for a particular 18 to 35 group. But then guess what? When they get out of that 18 to 35 group and the next generation comes in, they might not be gelling with that.
Well, this is where we have to learn from Japanese publishing because they grew the audience from children right through adults. There are
That's what
manga
we're doing
written
right
for
now.
senior citizens. There's manga for every age and every interest. And they grew that deliberately, and we have to learn how to do that ourselves.
Yeah, that's the idea of becoming comic literate and being able to understand the syntax of it and being able to read it and appreciate it. And I hope right now we're in the middle of that. I was teaching for a little while at the School of Visual Arts, did 3 years there, and the first year I came in, my class was like almost half girls, and by the time I left, it was over half girls. And it was like, from when I went, there was like 2 girls in the comic book department. I wasn't even in the comic book department, I was in like the animation department. So it just goes to show that like in 10 years from when I was at that school to when I taught there, now you go from 2 girls in the comic book department to like half girls.
I think for kids, there's a huge push for children's graphic novels right now. And they're coming up with a whole range of series and, like I said, lots of fiction, lots of nonfiction, and they're pushing it in Common Core now. It's actually named as one of the selected reading materials that teachers should include.
Okay. Well, and as librarians, we can also push independent stuff. I don't just order the big stuff. When I can get it, I get the independent stuff too. And we can push it as female librarians. Like, part of being a librarian is reading what you're giving people, and that's comics. I guess the next question, which women do you consider the top, female characters or superheroes in the universe?
In the universe?
Yeah, just your opinion.
Who's your favorite?
Yeah, who's your favorite? Yeah, exactly.
Rogue has always been my favorite, so yeah, give it up for her. Come on,
Yes.
she gets more than just like a Rogue, okay? Yeah.
There's a lot. I have like a litany.
You can give a few.
Rattle.
It's fine. It doesn't have to be one.
When I was into X-Men, Storm was my favorite. Yay, Storm. Can I say round him in half? He's like half girl. Totally. Do you guys remember that manga series, or was anime too, Revolutionary Glue? See? Yeah. She was a little wacky. But these are there's so many out there. Chun-Li, first played Street Fighter, Street Fighter 2.
Yes.
She was my favorite, and it was like, oh my god, there's a girl in this game. Look at her thighs. She had the buns. Super cool. Thunder thighs. I loved her. Yeah. And Final Fantasy games, Rydia is, my web host is called Rydia, that's why I went with him. But I guess I was lucky to grow up in a time where a lot of pop culture and stuff had, started really getting some kick-ass female characters in there. You go. I'll just keep going.
I'm really liking Kate in Hawkeye. I think she's totally awesome. Kate Bishop. And I'm a big Buffy fan in general. I don't really have a good answer. Buffy is my,
Buffy and Willow, come on.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of Storm. And I think in terms of influence and longevity, it would have to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She's been around the longest. She's a household name. She's such an icon. But also Catwoman. She's the only one who has her own movie. Electra did, never mind.
It's funny you bring up Wonder Woman, and just to interject, I think she's almost like, her character is almost a victim of her success as an icon. You know, as a feminist icon in the 70s, and becoming a symbol, and in becoming a symbol, now everybody's like, the Wonder Woman movie, and I'm like, well...
They did a Thor movie, okay? You want to talk about mythology? They
No,
do a
but
Wonder Woman.
they can, but it's, I think the trouble comes when it's because she's such an icon. Thor is not an icon for anything. He's just
Captain America's an icon.
He is, but he's had more of a, I guess.
I
I know more about, like, and I've read, like, a lot, but I know more about Captain America's origins and his storyline and all the stuff with Civil War than I really know from any of Wonder Woman. Like, I can't really pick out it.
retconned so many times.
Yeah.
That's why, too.
Yeah, but it's a lot of it. Her strength as an icon has almost undermined her, the ability for people to market her, and it's sad. You know?
But they'll put her face on every mug, T-shirt,
and people love
pantyhose,
it. I couldn't even get any of them. You remember that when Mac put out the Mike Allred line? I went in there like the second day that they had the Wonder Woman. Really? Mac did a whole Wonder Woman line, and Mike Allred did all the art, and it was
Mike Allred did art.
oh, it's so good. And I was like, I just want Wonder Woman mascara. Is this too, like, why? I couldn't get it, and it's because it's sold out. It was just like in and out. Why didn't they put a Wonder Woman comic, like a small, even like a Bazooka Joe style thing, in with that MAC bubblegum? You know, or with the MAC lipstick and shit, you know? It was like, here's a way to get comics into the hands of, like, hundreds of thousands of girls that probably have never read a Wonder Woman
But that's
comic.
what Amy was saying, marketing ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, they're not thinking the same marketing ways that they would for, like, marketing.
You need to talk to
It's
them.
just the Disneyfication of everything. I mean, like girls are supposed to be doing the princess thing right now. I mean, it's just that's what's happening. That's corporate, big, corporation running how we're supposed to, absorb our culture, or our media. But as like if you're a 16-year-old girl, you have a lot more options. You don't have to buy into that. You can do all sorts of things.
I think another thing to think about with Wonder Woman is she's an icon, and people, that's about as much as they know about her.
Right.
Like, they don't know much about her backstory,
Yeah.
and her backstory has changed so much over the years that they can't really figure out what to do with her.
Right. It's like everyone knows Clark Kent, you think Smallville, and Batman, you think
Bruce Wayne.
his parents are dead. Everybody knows. Like, it's one of those things that's ingrained in our subconscious as like a mythology. It's what it is. We're like myth building right now, and we're storytelling, and it's, a lot of people talk about like the new origin stuff that's at the 0 year, and I've heard a lot of people being like, oh, well, why are we telling Batman's story again? Don't we already know it? We already know it, but it has to be retold for the younger generation. You can't expect them to look back at.
But it's also retold so many times, like
Yeah.
every 10 years.
But
it
that's
gets retold.
that's like storytelling, and that's
Yeah.
more myth building, and that's we're creating myths. And with Wonder Woman, I feel like she just needs to have that one. She needs her like killing joke, She needs that one iconic story that everyone's gonna remember, and everyone's gonna see, this is it. She needs like the definitive Wonder Woman story.
3 of us, we're gonna write that. Seriously. 3 sick chicks in a room, coughing all over each other. What definitive Wonder Woman story?
That's my
There you go.
And Wonder Woman was kind of a litmus test for history because she reflects her time period. She was created in the 40s, she was kind of the Rosie Riveter, and then she got affected by the 50s.
Yeah.
So, she went from being this awesome chick who was doing all these awesome things to being the secretary for I think it was JLA or the Justice League?
JSA.
Yeah, sorry. She was the secretary for them, so, it went from being, oh, you can do anything to, okay, make babies and pies now, please, thank you. So.
Okay, but if she was actually typing on a typewriter, she would break the key.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we're not going. We should start like a talk radio or something.
I'm on this. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do another question. Let's do a librarian one. What are the best practices, approaches to collection building for comics and manga in public and academic libraries?
You're going to go to you first? Okay. From my point of view, in academic libraries, you want to collect a little bit of everything. We're there to stimulate research and creativity in our students and in our professors, our faculty. And you can tie it in with everything. We should collect Nausicaa because of its ecological values. And that's a great thing to bring into a classroom, to grab your students' interest. What was she really researching with these fungi? Was she a scientist as well as a hero? Yes. You can bring in things like Barefoot Jen in classes on war, because that tells the story of Hiroshima from a survivor's perspective. So you want to collect the things that go along with what's already happening on your campus, but you always want to have stuff that will stimulate more growth.
I was going to say, you want to focus on diversity. More importantly, you should focus on promotion and advocacy for your comics collection, because you can have the world's greatest graphic novel collection, but if nobody's reading it and nobody is using it, then there's no point in having it. So you want to be able to promote those to your patrons, promote it to the parents especially, who will come in and say, oh, I really want my child to read a real book rather than this.
Okay, thanks guys. All right, do the comic book creators want to talk about any current projects before we go into questions from the audience? No? Go ahead, put a plug in for yourself. Go for it. What? It's not bad. You guys have awesome stuff. Seriously.
Q7 and
You guys have awesome stuff. Seriously.
I'm about to launch a third Kickstarter. I've come out with 2 issues of these Girls' Night Out. They are fully Bechdel tested, short stories. It's funny, actually, I did the statistics, and 60% of my readership are male, actually. So I think that just goes to show you don't need to have like a lot of cleavage in the front cover to really sell. I do try to, with my stories, I do try to, I don't actually use this as marketing, but if you read through, and I don't think anyone actually realizes, no one's actually asked me about this, but diversity-wise, I always try to put a person of color as the main character and a female person of color. But I don't try to do it in a very obvious way. No one's ever actually said, "Oh my God, you're doing that." So I think that's a good thing. But I am doing the Kickstarter number 3 for Girls' Night Out 3, and it'll be available on Amazon, Kickstarter, and I'm in 10 comic book stores across the nation working on that, building the distribution for women-created comics.
I'm at table N1 in Artist Alley, and because I'm a little bit sick, I'm only doing a few hours a day, so I'll be there for 2 hours after this panel, and I'll have all my mini comics with me. Right now, we're winding down the True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys at Dark Horse with Gerard Way and Sean Simon. I think issue 4 is out, and issue 5 is going to be out maybe this month or next. I don't know what issue. Issue 5 is coming next, and after that, I'm doing a graphic novel with For a Second. So there's a lot happening.
Okay, so thank you guys for being on this panel. You guys are all awesome. So we'll start taking some questions. So who's got questions?
That's great to hear. Thank you everyone for joining us down here. I know it's kind of out of the way, out here in the corner, but we're real excited to have you here. If you're wondering where you are, this is the Kotobukiya Fall Preview for 2013-14. What's going on there? Excuse me. Let's try this. Okay, so why don't we start? Now, everyone has a raffle ticket? Okay, great, because you're going to want to hold on to those because we've got some really awesome stuff to give away, as you can see up here on the stage. Some of these items are not even available yet for sale here in America, so you will be the first person, or some lucky person will be the first person to get that Hulk, Catwoman. We've got an R2Q5 International Edition, so that's actually a different one from the one that you can buy at our booth. So make sure to hang out till the very end. I don't think anyone's going to want to leave anyway because we've got a lot of great new products and updates to share with you. Well, maybe I should introduce myself. My name is Dan Lujan. I'm the Director of Media Operations for Kotobukiya International. And I'm joined here by Kurt Nakamura, who's from our Tokyo office. Hello.
Hello.
So, yeah, thank you. So we will have a Q&A session, hopefully, but if we could just keep all our questions till the very end, we can get through them. I think we're going to run a little short on time, so let me cut this spiel short, and we can just jump right into the presentation. Now, I do want to say that we have a lot of products that I'm not going to be able to cover in this very limited period of time, and that includes our Q-Push and our Artifacts J and our Annie statues. For all of those releases, you can go to our Facebook page or go to kotous.com, or even come by our booth. We have a lot of new products on display there at the booth. 1564 is our booth number. So, and I'll be referring back to the booth throughout the presentation because many of the items you'll see here we do have at the show, so you can check them out in person after you're done. And yeah, why don't we just jump in? Can I get the lights dimmed slightly? Thank you. It's like magic. They just go down when I ask them to. So as many of you know, we've got our Star Wars collection that's been going strong for many years, and we're going to continue that trend well into 2014. Yeah, it's okay to take pictures. We want you to share this across all social media and everything. So these are our Star Wars business card holders. These are available now, and we've got two styles: Han Solo and Carbonite, and R2-D2. They're really neat, got a real good weight to them. They're going to protect your cards, and they're not limited just to business cards. If you want to put your credit cards in, your ID, whatever, they work really well, and those have an SRP of $29.99. We're also following that up with a second series of cards, and this is actually one of the items, or three of the items I'm going to give away today. These are not available just yet, but somebody's going to walk away with a Stormtrooper, Darth Vader, and C-3PO business card holder. So this is our second series. They're going to be hitting retailers probably around early November. We expect them to arrive here in North America around the end of October. So look for those. Perfect holiday gift. If you've got a Star Wars fan that you've got to buy something for this holiday season, you might want to remember these guys. Now, this is something that we've talked about for a while. And these are our light-up lightsaber chopsticks. Did we actually bring a sample of those? I think we forgot those samples. But if you come by the booth, I'll show you personally how they work. How's that? So we've got two styles here. We've got the Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, and we newly re-engineered these items. So you just press the button on the hilt and they light up. Those will be $14.99, and we're looking at a March 2014 release date for that. Now, our latest Artifacts Plus statue, and now, real quickly, Artifacts Plus is a 1/10 scale collectible. They have magnets in their feet, so you can position them wherever you'd like on the included base. And we started with, actually, Artifacts Plus started with the Clone Wars, Star Wars, then went into the regular, not regular, but, classic trilogy and, the new films. And it's been going strong, and we've expanded that line into DC, Marvel, Halo, which I'll talk a little about later on. But this is our newest release, available now. This is Jango Fett. He comes with a different set of arms, so you can actually have him with the gun, as you see there, holding the gun up, or with both arms to his side. There's also a ball joint in the neck, so you can reposition the helmet as you'd like. And he also comes with two different jetpacks, one with the missile and then one with the jetpack itself like that. So those are, that particular piece is available now. Coming up next will be our General Grievous Artifacts Plus statue, and this is a really intricate piece. This is one of those that we do have a factory sample at our booth, so you'll want to make sure to drop on by and look at it in person. And with, like most Artifacts Plus releases, it comes with multiple sets of arms. Plus he has a removable cape, so you can have them with the cape on or off. This piece is going to be available, we're looking around November, maybe early December. And with suggested retail pricing of Now, we did a trooper poll to see which trooper fans wanted to see next in the Artifacts Plus collection, and Sand Trooper won without any question. So we went ahead and we are offering actually 2 different types of Sand Troopers. And those familiar with our previous regular Stormtrooper release know that these come with multiple parts again, so you can reposition the arms as you like. Different configurations for the weapons. You've got one with the binoculars and blaster rifles. We've got 2 different types here. We have the Squad Leader, and that comes in a 2-pack configuration. We have some factory samples out of booth, so come by and check those out. We're looking at an early release of, and that should say 2014. So there's my first error in this PowerPoint presentation. But those will be available early next year, 2014, and they have a suggested retail pricing of $84.99. And then we also have, here's just the Sergeant. This is going to be a single pack. So if you would like to just get 1 trooper, we're making that available to collectors. That's going to be available January 2014. There we go, correct date, for a price of $54.99. Now, this is our exclusive for New York Comic Con. This is R2Q5, and he's available right now at our booth. There's 2 different editions to this, and I just want to clarify. We've got our international edition, which will be available in Europe and Asia a little later on in the year. But this edition is available now. This is the first time this piece is being released, and this is the only edition that will have the gold coin. So if you want the gold coin, which is exclusive to this show, you want to make sure to stop by our booth. He goes great with the previous releases of Darth Vader, the Imperial, Royal Guard, and the Stormtroopers. 1/10 scale. He includes multiple pieces, so you can have them at an incline or standing straight up, and again, comes with a magnetic base and that exclusive coin. $29.99, and that's available right now at our booth. So, a lot of fans have been saying, you know, you do great troopers, but, you know, we want some of those core characters. So we are going to be going back to the original films, and we're going to be releasing a set of 4 characters. Actually, they'll be set up as 2 packs, I believe. Han Solo and Chewbacca, Artifacts Plus statues, and Luke and Leia, Artifacts Plus statues. And these are our, our renderings, our early designs. And when you put them together, and that's another thing about Artifacts Plus, they look great on their own, but when you put them together, it really comes, the whole package comes together. So you'll be able to pose all 4 of these characters together to create a great scene. And for the first time, we're actually pleased to show an early rendering of our Han Solo Artifacts Plus. And we're showing this publicly. So again, 1/10 scale, available sometime in 2014, and the SRP is to be determined. So, those familiar with our Bashoujo line, Bashoujo roughly translated is beautiful girl, pretty woman. Started with Marvel, then we brought DC into the fold, and then characters from Mass Effect, Tekken, Street Fighter, and now Star Wars. Our first Star Wars release was Jaina Solo. Jaina Solo is available now, and she comes with an interchangeable, and you'll see this feature across several different lines of the Bashoujo, where you can actually take out the design and the base and switch it out with another design to become with different little film plates. So Jaina Solo is available now, $64.99. And as a follow-up to Jaina Solo, we're going to be doing Mara Jade. Mara Jade has been a real, fans have been asking for forever, basically. So for the first time here at the show, we're unveiling our Paint Master of Mara Jade. Now Mara Jade will have a removable cape, and will come with 2 different lightsabers. So you can have her, as you see there, with her saber and then with Luke's. And we are looking at, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back here, May 2014, with a price point of $69.99. Now, before I go on, I'm sure some of you are wondering what is the next shoujo coming out, and we're still in the early planning stage.